Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's continued coverage of the 65th season of the Roll Thunder Gaming Barebones Racing Series. As tonight, we are in the Irish Hills, Brooklyn, Michigan, getting ready for 2-mile speedway racing at the Michigan International Speedway. Race number 5 ready to be run, nearing that halfway point here of the regular season. Drivers now getting themselves prepared for the home stretch, the push towards the playoffs. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Sean Prime. And Sean, back when we went to Coca-Cola Superspeedway, I said it may be the one track that was going to serve as a wild card opportunity for, drivers that we don't normally see up at the front of the field to maybe be able to snipe a checkered flag, clinch a playoff spot. But when you kind of look at the aspects of Michigan in the fact of, that you can manipulate the draft. It's so spacious in the corners. I mean, you talked about it, earlier, the 3-wide, 4-wide capabilities here, and also this track is very well known for pit strategy. Could this also fall into the category of a track where we could see one of those drivers potentially be able to snipe away a playoff spot from our usuals that we usually see up at the front week after week?
Oh, absolutely, Seth, and good evening, sir. To see you. This track has pretty much everything to it. It's a fan favorite. It's certainly a driver favorite. The draft is so strong here that it really favors anybody. Has a little super speedway style to it because you can generate a huge run and get some help, and you can rocket past just about anybody. We should see lots of action tonight, passing galore, and like you said, some strategy. Fuel mileage is definitely, when you talk Michigan, you talk fuel, you always got it on your mind. 24 laps is the number you want to keep in your head tonight.
But the scenario coming to this evening is we've had 39 drivers in the first 4 races this season take a green flag in total. Tonight, we've got 38 of them that are going to take the green flag. Biggest field we've had here this season. We talk about how spacious this racetrack is, but if you're packed to the rear of the field, how congested is it going to get as you try to make your way forward?
Chaotic, for sure. But again, big, wide track. If these guys use their heads and use the space the track gives them, you can pretty much go from 30-something place right up into the top 10 or top 5 if you're just patient and read the draft right and get a little of that racing luck going your way.
Well, so far in the first 4 races this season, we've seen 3 different drivers go to victory lane. Most recently, Nick Gunther getting his first career win last week at North Wilkesboro. Jeff Supta and 2-time winner Jeremy Jeffries, the other former winners on the season. And we talk all the time about the stage points. You talked about that 24 to maybe 25 laps on the fuel window. Halfway point in this race, lap 40, where those stage points are paid out. And we have seen so many drivers that dominate in the second half of the race. They miss out on those stage points the first half of the race. Because of that, Josh Metallic, he may have a 0 in the win column, but he's still leading the overall points.
He sure is, and he's got his lead up to 7 points now over Grant Wesley sitting in second place. Meanwhile, Jeremy Jeffries, who notched his second win of the season back at Coca-Cola, is sitting at third in the points.
Yeah, Supta, former winner, is 4th in points. Gunther, after his win last week, moves up into the 10th position in the standings. Top 12 in points would get into the playoffs regardless of a win or not. Right now, all 3 of the former winners in there. So right now, 12 drivers would currently be in the postseason as things are currently scored. But for those that didn't tune in last week to Nashville Superspeedway, I should say, incredible racing, that typical concrete surface racing, worn out racing surface we know and love. I still replay that back in my mind, the 4 or 5 drivers we could throw a blanket over that were double wide, 3 wide in those final 5 to 10 laps. How they kept it clean, I don't know, but it made it sure exciting for the fans. I believe you've got some statistics from that race last week.
I sure do, and you saw last week, especially at the end of the display, that these guys put on in the Barebones series on the regular. That was good, hard, but clean and tight racing by guys who can flat out do it. And yes, last week we saw Nick Gunther get his inaugural win here at RTG and in the Barebones series, followed by Josh Metallic, a name we hear again, in second place. Brian Schilling brought it home in third, and Kelly Causey finished 6th, bringing home the Challenger win for last week. Fastest lap of the race turned in by Mr. Jeremy Jeffries at a 31.052. Most laps led, Grant Wesley at 45 to Nick Gunther's 35. And the highest climber, this does not surprise anybody. You could probably guess it. You want to take a shot?
Highest climber, I would say probably Kelly Causey.
Close. Brian Schilling, who
Ah,
often
of
finds
course.
himself as the later
You served
rider.
me up a softball and I missed it.
He started 29th, finished third for a net gain of 26. And hard luck award went to Dave Melson, went from 8th to 23rd, but that about closes the book on Nashville. Exciting race, 8 cautions was too many for a 28 laps, but they made up for it with some high quality racing in between, and I have a feeling we're going to see some high quality racing here tonight.
Absolutely. And we talk about the capabilities of pit road here. Obviously, with a big field, if we end up having the long green flag runs that we're hoping we get, pit strategy comes into play. But in what ways? Like, are we going to see enough tire fall off in this race that the undercut would be an option? Or you mentioned the super speedway type aspects of this. Do we see maybe a group of drivers come down pit road together to leave together so they still have that draft available when they merge back onto the racing surface?
Tires are something you need to be aware of, but fuel is the critical one. Now, you'll hear me talk about tires, and I don't want to give away all my secrets, but tire wear, they do wear. There is a little fall off, but tire temps here are more critical. You can really get that right front heated up, and you'll see guys losing it off turn two, especially on the exit, where they might smack the wall, and that's usually the site of the biggest chaos here, quite honestly. You've got to manage that right front at all times. It'll creep up on you. If you feel it starting to slide, it will recover. Give it a lap or two to recover, but you can get it into there too.
Yeah, this guy, he knows a thing or two about winning here at Michigan. He's got a couple of wins, a trio of wins. Now, are you the double digits in wins here? Because I was looking back at the first race that I ran with you guys here at this racetrack. You ended up going to victory lane in that race. Of course, a former winner here more recently that helped you wrap up a championship. How many wins you got at this track?
Honestly, I do not know the answer to that, but I do know it is the site of a lot of my greatest wins or greatest things. I won the season 56 championship by winning here at the close of the season. I won the season 62 championship by winning here to close the season. I won the holiday race, which is the snowy version of this track. If you've ever run with us there, this is a very similar version to that. It's a fan favorite. It's one of my favorites. It makes for great racing, and you just got to keep those couple things in mind. Manage that right front, and fuel mileage, as you said before, it's 24 laps. So again, your eyes on the tire. But to answer your other question, fuel is the number one priority. And the last 3 races we had 3 cautions, 2 cautions, and 3 cautions. So usually it's a low caution rate event.
We mentioned about the big car count here tonight. Normally, your big tracks is where a lot of drivers want to show up at. Obviously, the super speedways, Auto Club in Michigan usually get big numbers. Even the 2.5 mile racetracks like Indianapolis and Pocono see a big turnout at those racetracks across leagues here in NR as well. So, no surprise that we're going to have a packed field here this evening. And of course, fans always love tuning into these type of races as well because, as we kind of said here in prefacing tonight's event, if you're in it, you can win it. You need a lot of things maybe to fall your way in terms of strategy, in terms of where you're positioned in the field, but hey, we've seen drivers work their way from the back to the front and vice versa, start at the front and fall to the back. As apparently here tonight in terms of qualifying, it's good to have a 1 in your number, unless your name is Grant Wesley, because we have a total of 6 1s up inside of the top 4, with Jeff Supta starting on the pole in the double 1, the triple 1 of Ron Hagelin in second, and then the single 1 of Jeremy Jeffries in fourth. So a lot of 1s to keep track of here.
That's for sure, and I think we'll see all those guys in heavy action tonight. I'm excited for this one. I really am. It should be a great one. I think the word that draws the big crowd is fun. This place is fun. It's a place where you can spread out, you can breathe a little, you can get big runs, you can feel like Superman sometimes getting some of these runs, especially down the backstretch. The question is, what do you do with them when you get there?
Up front row going to be Supta and Ron Hagelin. Grant Wesley and Jeremy Jeffries going to make up row number 2. You heard the command to fire the engines. They'll roll off behind the pace car. Row 3, you got to find Rodney Sullins and Jim Gloud. Josh Metallic, your points leader, he is in row 4 with Dave Melson. Kelly Causey, who's a back-to-back challenger winner. Looks like we're having a little reset here. Someone might have missed the grids. Gives a little extra time to go down this long starting lineup. As Kelly Causey will start in row 5 alongside of Ryan Lucet. Denny Carroll, Greg Palmer going to be in row 6. Row 7 will be Greg Lovell and Bob Dixon. Row 8, Jeff Crivello and Randy Waugh. Row 9 with Glenn Harris and Jeffrey Elliott, and Frank Rivard, Terry Bombard will complete the top 20. Dante Ricky starting pretty deep in the field. He'll be 21st. Colin Flick, who leads the Challenger points, is 22nd. Andre Charest and Bobby Farrell, they're back in row 12 with Dennis McCarthy and Cy Jones in row 13. They were the last drivers to take time. Dave Robbins will be back in row 14 with Brian Schilling. So you mentioned Schilling started, 29th last week, and he'll start 28th tonight, having to pass a lot of cars once again. Pat McCarskey will complete the top 30 with Brian Rawson. Billy Elliser and Ulysses Sandoval, they're back in row 16. Row 17, Andre Mahjong, Bob LaChance. Nick Gunther, last week's winner, will be alongside of Mark Paglia back in row 19, that's row 18, and in row 19, making up the 38-car field here tonight, will be Keith Bynum and John Godfrey.
That is a huge field, sir, but we've run high 20s here, looks like, on the regular at this track. Again, fun favorite, fan favorite. Yeah, we've got some good stats from the last races here.
So wait for everybody to grid up here. Couple of resets there, but hey, with a big field and you have different sims having different particular issues, might as well, while you're on the warm-up pacing lap here, get everything sorted away before the green flag flies.
Sounds like we may have it now. While we're doing that, this again is the Nextel V3 version of Michigan, which is just, again, it's one of the best we've run. It's if you ever heard of the old NRT races, we ran a version of this for the NRT 400, which was a multi-server wide event, and again, it was a great race. And I believe our very own Josh Metallic may have gone to victory lane in that event.
I believe you are correct. He has regaled me on that story a time or two. And speaking of Josh Metallic, we mentioned he comes into this race as the points leader. I believe mathematically only 4 drivers could leave here tonight atop the point standings, as Grant Wesley sits 7 points back in second, Jeremy Jeffries third, 15 points back, and then Jeff Supta 19 points out in fourth. Brian Schilling is a distant fifth. He is 40 points back, with Dave Melson, Ronald Lucet, Denny Carroll, Ron Hagelin, and Nick Gunther. That is your top 10. Right now, the final 2 playoff spots via top 12 in the standings are currently held by Frank Rivard and Bob LaChance, but a lot of names just below that cut line that could leap up there at the conclusion of this one, including Colin Flick, John Godfrey, Andre Charest, Dante Ricky, so keep an eye on some of those guys here tonight. A good finish, a top 10, even a top 15, if some of those other drivers around that cut line run into some issues, could move them up above that cut line in preparation for next week's race when we head to the Tricky Triangle at Pocono.
That is exactly right, and we still plenty of time. I think we've got 4 more regular season races before we set the playoffs after this one. And since we were talking about Mr. Metallic, and I'm holding in my hand 3 prior Michigan races at this version of the track, and we knew that my name come up in 2 of those, Josh Metallic, season 59, took the checkered flag at this version. And we're getting ready to go green, sir. Here we go.
80 laps of racing here tonight. Green flag in the air. A little stack up at the back. Someone might have not gotten going, but looks like we are, at least the entire field, rolling our way into turn 1. And Grant Wesley going to waste no time. Shifts from the bottom up to the middle. Showed the nose to the right rear, but now tucks back in behind Souped out of turn 2.
We're going to see a lot of these guys trying to get in line and see, just think probably taking it a little easy here first and feel it all out. And 2x2 seems to be the order of the day through about 15th place.
Starting at third with Rodney Sullins to the inside of Ron Hagelin. There's Josh Metallic in that blue and orange 39 machine. Battling now for 4th place as Sullins will clear for 3rd. And Jeff Supta will lead the first lap of the night.
Looks like we've got our first drafting line setting up on the high side there. I see Rodney and Ron Hagelin and Jeremy Jeffries. And just as I say that, Rodney dives down. But you'll see at the end of these straightaways, momentum is building, especially where you see the bigger lines stacked up.
Saw right there that outside line getting a little bit more draft down the back straightaway. So Hagelin was able to clear. Josh Metallic, how about this? Grant Wesley with a move to the inside on Supta. Not only moves on by Supta for the lead, but Rodney Sullins will move by for 2nd. And this is another thing about Michigan, is this track is so based on momentum. If you end up getting put in a compromised spot and you have to lift out of the throttle, you're in danger of not just losing one spot to the driver behind you, but there's a whole host of other drivers that would love to freight train on by you for position as well.
You took the word right from me. Mo is important here. It is all about momentum. And you saw Rodney build it before on the backstretch, and then he was able to follow Grant through and make that pass, and then they carried the momentum forward. Jeff has now done the job of getting back in the draft there behind Ron Hagelin, and he should see if he can generate his own run. Meanwhile, I'm looking back and seeing 2 wide, 3 wide there, about 10th place.
Denny Carroll looking to the inside of Jim Glaude, and as you were referring to back here, Jeff Crivello, Frank Rivard, Bob Dixon all side by side here. This is, I believe, for the 15th position currently going on between the Dodge up top and the Chevrolet on the bottom. And something that I was noticing as we saw Wesley move to the lead and Sullins move into second is we talked about how spacious this racetrack is, and you brought up the phrase generating a run. I saw Rodney run about a half groove to almost a full groove higher than Grant the last time through 3 and 4 as he's actually taken the lead now. And is that more so trying to get clean air to the nose for turnability through the center, or to your point, running a little wider to be able to have more straight line speed off the banking onto the back straightaway to generate that said run to make a move?
Boy, you should do some pro analysis, sir, because you hit it right on the money. It's exactly, if you go wide, and I'm notorious for going really wide in turn 1 here, and you can get straight line speed diving down the banking, and you just take off down the backstretch. That's the way to do it. You put less stress on the right front on the exit by doing so. Problem is, if you look as they come here through 3 and 4, coming to the start finish lines, they get towards 1, you'll see the safer barrier starts to jut out right as they get where you want to be up by the wall there. So you got to be very careful right about when they get to this point right here and the safer barrier starts sticking out. You don't want to be right up against it because it can bite you.
It's like it's going to be difficult here tonight for one particular driver to hold on to the race lead. We saw Supta lose the lead to Grant. Rodney took the lead away from Wesley, and now Hagelin could take a turn up here at the front. So got to wonder as we get into later stages of this race, if you're that leader coming to 3 to go, 2 to go, white flag lap, boy, you're going to have to play a lot of defense with the momentum that's generated behind you. As Rodney, you see him pull right up to the back bumper of Hagelin off of 4. He'll show the nose down there to the inside with Grant Wesley. And, you know, while obviously they're entirely different configurations, while you've got that run, there can be sometimes a little too late of a moment to make a move. We saw there Rodney made it just past the start-finish line, and that's got to be something as well when we get closer towards the second half of this race and down towards the home stretch, towards the checkered flag, that drivers are going to have to be aware of is maybe it could be too late to make a move if the leader or the driver you're trying to pass reacts. Could lead to some pretty badly torn up race cars.
There's a fine line there because you've got a great closing rate with the runs you can generate. And Rodney and Grant, just you saw that was textbook passing. They were hooked up together. They got the momentum, built it up on the front stretch, moved to the inside plenty early, and completed the pass as they went into 1. Perfectly executed, but that's, you'll see. I mean, welcome to the fun of Michigan Nextel V3, where we see 14 lead changes before, 22 lead changes, and let's see, where else do we go in season 56? 24 lead changes. So we'll be no stranger with plenty of action tonight as we see Josh Metallic now inside of Jeff Supta. That looks like for about 4th place.
That is indeed for the, well, it's actually the 5th position.
5th place.
Jim Glaude was able to get by Supta just moments ago. There's Kelly Causey up there on the top side. Kelly, as we mentioned, back-to-back Challenger winner at Coca-Cola Superspeedway and last week at Nashville. Kelly, I do not believe, ran the first 2 races, though. As problems there for Jim Glaude. Slow there off at turn 2.
Looks like he's gathered it back up. Might just got up from under him a little bit. I see he caught a little bit of the apron there as well. So he's recovered well, so he can regroup and go at it again.
He'll tuck in around the 14th position here. He was in 4th, so a net loss of 10 spots. As look a little further back here, and looks like a couple of drivers
Sandoval, newcomer.
Yeah, and a couple of drivers have actually fallen a lap down here, and I believe they've actually made some pit stops. Ulysses Sandoval being one of them, Dave Robbins being another. So Sandoval right now, he may be behind 9th place Jeremy Jeffries, but he's currently off the lead lap, and Same for the 96 of Dave Robbins, so not sure what it was that drew those two drivers to pit lane, but now they would be hoping for a caution to get the lucky dogs get back on the lead lap via the free pass.
Not a good start if you have a 96 in your number.
No,
36th and 37th.
right? 96 and the 096.
Kelly Causey's tucked in there behind Jeff Supto. Some good close racing there coming out of turn 2. That's Brian Lavelle to the inside of Jeff Supta as they try to draft down behind Denny Carroll. And that outside line is going to draft past and see if Kelly can join. And Jeremy Jeffries right in line with Kelly.
Mentioned first star of the season here for Ulysses Sandoval. Same for Greg Lovell in the 880. Dave Melson in that Wendy's machine, currently holding down the, I believe he's now in the 10th position. I believe Jeremy just passed him for 9th. Dave Melson coming to this race 6th in the point stands. We've seen him very strong here in the early going of the season, and working his way forward is the 41 of Denny Carroll. Denny started 11th. He's picked up 6 spots since the start, and now knocking on the door of, well, he's actually in the 5th position, trying to get some more here as he'll follow Josh Metallic to the inside of Ron Hagelin.
Freight Train's going to set up to the inside of the 111 here, and he will lose a few spots until he can pick up some momentum and pull his way back in there. But this will be the order of the night, I think, for sure. There's a big line setting up to the inside now.
Yeah, and if you're Ron Hagelin in this situation, is it just a matter of waiting it out, or is there something you can do to try and stifle momentum of drivers around you to try and find a way to tuck back in line? Oh, I believe he just got the wall right there off of turn 2, did Hagelin.
He sure did. Good reaction by the other drivers there right behind him. That is what usually happens here and about this far into a run. We're lap 13, so yep, some people could be getting that right front pretty hot, especially with the size of this draft. They're going to pull a little more speed. That's going to build a little more heat. 3 wide here with Ronald Lucier, Greg Palmer, and Dave Melson.
This is Sandoval with a front row seat of that. They'll get it sorted out. Palmer will pick up a couple of spots. Melson going to follow behind him with Lucier stuck on the inside line here for the time being. And starting to see more and more drivers kind of migrate a little bit further up here on the racetrack. Some drivers, as they're trying to make it pass, go right down to that yellow line. But as we move back up here to the front, watch the leaders here of Sullins and Grant Wesley. They're going to run right around the middle portion of the track, a half groove, maybe a full groove off of the bottom. And you talked about that right front tire heat. Is that to give at least a little bit of cushion space here off the corner, so if the car does push up, you're not going to hit the wall like a couple of drivers have already done?
Yeah, these guys know it for sure. Anything they can do to give a little less wheel input, be a little less abrupt, they're going to do it. It saves you entire wear, it saves you entire temperature, you know, it saves you friction, which is just overall making you go faster. It looks like Jeff Supta's pushing up off of turn 2. He is going backwards right now.
See that loss of momentum, and then Hagelin having to check up a bit there as well. Going to lose both those drivers some momentum as Palmer and Melson will look to work their way on by. Rodney Sullins still out in front. We got Al Sullins in our chat, so got to be pretty happy to see that 38 out in clean air right now. That'll be his 10th lap out in front so far here tonight of 4 drivers that have taken a turn out in front at Michigan these first 16 laps. And oh, Sean, do I dare? Like, the commentator curse happens so many times. Do I dare talk about the fact that we're getting close to that window on fuel for green flag pit stops?
Oh, I wouldn't, but they are really behaving themselves. That they're really calculating. I'm seeing a lot of heads-up racing, a lot of give and take, and it might get them right through. If we get the green flag pit stops here, they could get split up, but we've got about a third of that run left to go to get there. But back to the side draft thing. Now, the side draft is not an effective thing really in this sim, but if you get close to the guy and you're running alongside, sometimes you're sniffing more draft from the people in front of you, and that would be a good reason to get down there.
It's a great point. There's also the treacherous art of pinching, trying to pin that guy on the inside line down so he doesn't get a good run off the corner. But we've seen a lot of times there's that old adage, you pinch, you pay. And more often than not, if you're the pincher, you're going to be the one that's wrecked rather than the pinchee, or maybe the both of you, depending on how egregious the situation potentially could be here. Now, pit road, if I'm not mistaken, much like a super speedway at Michigan, is 55 miles per hour. These drivers right now carrying over 185 miles into turn 1. How difficult would Michigan rank in terms of the difficulty getting off the banking onto pit road here, because we know somebody's going to try hot pitting here, but just how ample a decision would that be here? What kind of a success rate would you give something like that?
Well, I wouldn't put it on the extreme difficulty as far as entries go, but I hope they had practiced it because you can get stuck in the grass, and if you get in the grass, you can kiss that attenuator when the wall comes up, and that pretty much ends your night right there if you nose into that. So hopefully these guys gave it some practice. You just got to get it set and get it pointed in the right direction, and then you can try to hot pit.
Now, I don't have confirmation on this, but we documented about Dave Robbins and Ulysses Sandoval both a lap down. I noticed the last lap by, and I just saw it this lap, there are some skid marks from the exit of turn 2 down on the apron on the back straightaway. I'm wondering if there might have been contact between those two, one of them spinning around and then the other one serving a pass-through penalty, hence why they both might be off the lead lap. Obviously, deemed off the racing surface, which is why we have remained green since the start. But if I were to hazard a guess, I would guess those might be the two drivers that set up that set of skid marks there on the back straightaway.
Sure sounds like a plausible hypothesis, sir. I do not know what the sources were. There they are again, but somebody took a big ride down right off the backstretch out of turn 2.
Denny Carroll now out in front, about 4 or 5 laps away from having to make the dive onto pit road. Grant Wesley moving on by for second as they're going to go around the 92 of Bobby Farrell, putting him a lap down. And we talk so much on Thursday nights, and drivers have given us the term of setting up for the pit stops. They want to get that extra position or two before they dive onto pit road. Is that something that takes place at a track like Michigan as well, where you maybe want that extra 1 or 2 spots to try and see if that will then translate to a bigger net gain once the pit stop cycle is complete?
Yeah, you're communicating with the people around you, hopefully figuring out if they're going to pit when you are. And the same point, if you can grab a spot or two. But right now, the tires and temps are right at a point where on the exit of these turns, they're probably taking care of each other a little bit because everybody's probably pushing up a little bit and being mindful that when they're too wide, etc. I see Josh Metallic, our point leader, is dropping back. He's now falling outside the top 10.
Metallic's dropping back. Rodney Sullivan's dropping back as well. Though, granted, for Rodney, it may be more a fuel situation of him dropping back than anything, because with him being out in front for 11 laps of this run, he would have been using up more fuel than the other drivers behind him able to utilize the draft. There you see a bump from Brian Schilling to Josh Metallic. Mentioned Brian started this race from 28th. He's been able to work his way up currently to, I believe, unofficially in 13th. As he'll now look to the inside here of Metallic. Supta's back here as well, so a lot of drivers that qualified up at the front now kind of running back in the latter portion of the top 15.
They sure are, and we've got about 2 laps to go till we should be seeing action on pit road. We could see some diving on this time by, but certainly within the 2 laps thereafter, we should see everybody.
And bear in mind, stage points get handed out at the conclusion of lap 40. So this is, if you want to get stage points, this is essentially a money stop that you must execute perfectly here. You end up having a problem on pit road. Could cost you, as I believe Grant from second is going to be the first one to make that dive.
Looks like Ron Hagelin and Frank Rivard are going to follow him down.
Jim Glaude might have been attempting to come to pit road, but looks like he missed it on the apron there, but still going. Andre Mahjong, Colin Flick, Bob Dixon, Andre Charest, and Dennis McCarthy all in this lap.
Looks like we're going to get another round coming in here. Perhaps a big group this time.
Let's see who will include.
Starting with the leader.
Yep, leader's coming in. Whoa, Greg Lovell almost got into him here as we're going to be double wide, a couple rows deep coming into pit road.
Good recovery. Looks like everybody got on clean. Greg Lovell's leading Denny Carroll down. Jeremy Jeffries behind. Dave Melson, Kelly Causey, Randy Waugh.
Jim Glaude will make it onto pit road this time, safely.
Jeff Supta is on pit road this time. Andre Charest is on his way out.
Lead transferred over to Ryan Lucier, who we should see on pit road this time. This would be about the furthest, as you said, that they could go on fuel. Ulysses Sandoval coming in here as well. Remember, Ulysses
And
did only a pass through. Oh, Brian is
trouble
awfully
on
wide
pit
there.
road. Looks like the 41 got spun around on pit road. That's going to set him back a little.
And Denny was the leader when these pit stop cycles began, so valuable stage points possibly going to be lost there by the Crown Royal Chevrolet. I'll have to see where he cycles around to after all is said and done.
He's going to be way back. He had to pretty much wait for everybody else who was pitting to get on by before he could get going again. Looks like he had contact with the, nope, it just looks like he spun it up coming out of the pit stall and went around.
See who cycles out here to the front. Grant Wesley was second during the beginning of the pit stop cycles as he moves to the inside of Jeremy Jeffries. This might be the exchange for the lead. We obviously have to wait for scoring to update as the drivers from that third group that came to pit road at the conclusion of lap 25 are just now leaving pit lane, but I believe right there, the 88 going by the 62 will put Grant back out in front. We got a spinner on the back straightaway. Looks like it's Ulysses Sandoval in the 096.
And we enter our first caution. It looks like everybody got through their green flag pit stop before the caution came out, so we avoid that total chaos.
I do not believe it was the incident on the back straightaway brought out the yellow. You see some smoke lingering there on the exit of turn 4, so I would hazard a guess that might be where the incident occurred that brought this first yellow flag out, but pit stop cycle completed, and it looks like after the cycle, 34 drivers remained on the lead lap.
And as you called it, Grant Wesley will be the leader.
Might have potentially involved... Nope, didn't involve Rodney Sullins. Trying to find who the driver or drivers were that had the incident out of 4. Looks like it might have been the 95 of Colin Flick.
Yep, Colin Flick, our challenger competitor, does appear to be involved. New paint scheme for him.
Clip the apron
and
right
I see
there.
it.
Got those left sides down on the paint. Fresh tires. Car's going to be a little bit loose. And you could just see, just after he had clipped the apron there, that back end was starting to come around. He was trying to save it, but sometimes the car just doesn't want to be saved. Fortunate for him, though, the fact that we had that green flag pit stop cycle, so the field was rather spread out, and nobody in major harm's way there. Everybody able to avoid him. Just a harmless solo spin. Didn't even make contact with the wall, so grabs a gear, continues on. And now... I don't know, with the timing of this yellow, if you're at the front, are you staying out, or do you come down, top off the fuel tank in case we go into another long green flag run? Would that extra 2 or 3 laps mean anything for later on?
I am thinking about that halfway in the points, and I'm not going to, for 1 lap or 2 laps of fuel, this could have a green flag look to it. You never know. I'm probably going to stay out unless if I see everybody ahead of me coming in to top off, I'm going to do that. But if absent of that, I'm probably going to stay out and take the track position.
Great point. We're going to focus here on Dante Ricky because I noticed he's out of the race, and he came off of pit road on the cycle in the 9th position. So I don't know if something happened to him under pacing or what occurred with the Wawa Nissan, but we'll try and see if we can find out why he retired.
He may have retired to retire. He was pretty tired himself when he was coming in here tonight, so I know he's working the wee morning early hours, so he may have had to do that. And back to Colin Flick on that spin there. Probably a contributing factor there is cold tires, and it just couldn't handle the little catch of the apron that he had there because it can be a little loose when you come out after a green flag pit stop. And I see there was some after-hours contact on the backstretch there with the 75 and the number 6, it appears, just as Colin was merging back up with the field.
Lucy Sandoval had that loop off of turn 2, which on the apron again, byproduct of those colder tires. So with that being said, I mean, this is going to be the first time that these drivers are going to be gearing up for a restart. When we have a start of a race, the tires are usually at a pretty optimal temperature. We only run about a full lap and they don't cool down that much, but now with the couple of pace laps we're having here, the tires are going to cool down a little bit more than what they felt coming to the initial green flag. How much of that loose condition are these drivers going to be dealing with, at least in the early stages of this run?
I'm very afraid of the cautions, breed cautions. This had a really good long green look to it, and then we got the green flag stop, but we did not get the benefit of the green flag stop as in getting some packs separated thereafter because we had the caution come out immediately thereafter. Like you said, the tires are going to be colder. Looks like we have the extra caution lap there. So they've got to get 2 laps in. We get 2 laps in, I think we'll be good.
So Dante Ricci, up to this point, going to be the only driver out of the race. He'll get credited for 37th. I believe, at least according to scoring, Ulysses Sandoval, Bobby Farrell should be the recipients of the free pass. They are the only cars 1 lap down. Dave Robbins is currently 2 laps down to the race leader, Grant Wesley, who will restart ahead of Jeremy Jeffries, Ron Hagelin, Greg Lovell, Ryan Lucet. That's going to be the top 5 with Brian Schilling, Greg Palmer, Josh Metallic, Jeffrey Elliott, and Nick Gunther. That's going to be the top 10. So a couple of drivers have done a really good job of working their way through the field up to the front, specifically the 4 and the 055, now with a chance for some stage points. A couple of drivers that come into this race 5th and 10th respectively.
Looks like there'll be 11 laps to go to the stage break once we get the green. And our lucky dogs are headed around.
So that will have us with 35 drivers of our remaining 36 on the lead lap. Grant Wesley, another driver that is still looking for that first win on the season. You mentioned about him having the most laps led last week, but just came up short of the victory. But he, much like Josh Metallic, has been a stage point monster, and that's why he's up in the second position in the overall standings.
That's for sure. I saw a couple cars diving down the pit road on that last time by to top off. Frank Rivard being one of them.
I believe most drivers that came to pit road were outside of the top 20, so potentially not in line for stage points. A couple of drivers that also struggled during that cycle of pit stops and are going to be starting pretty deep here in the field with that handful of laps you documented prior to the halfway point. Jeff Supta is going to start back in 20th. Rodney Sullins back in 24th. So we'll see. Those are a couple of drivers that qualified up here at the front. Both have been out in front for at least a lap. Sullins has led the most laps so far with 11 circuits out in front. But right now, both not in line for stage points. And they've got quite a number of cars to pass in just about 10 laps to be able to get those valuable stage points. There is Grant Wesley going to bring us back down here to the start-finish line. 50 laps to go here tonight at Michigan.
I think we're going to see some excitement for sure, sir, one way or the other. 11 laps to go now. Excuse me, 9 laps to go till halfway. Clean start.
Keep an eye on these drivers, specifically off a turn 2, center of the corner to the exit of the corner is when that loose sensation can start to kick in, as Ron Hagley just barely cleared up across the nose of fellow Chevrolet Jeffrey Elliott. Ron Lucet looking to the inside of Greg Lovell. That'll be the battle for 4th position.
That was so tight, but executed very well here. Looks like we may be up. So I thought they were thinking about going 3 wide on the front stretch. Caution is out.
Second caution of the night. Must have happened towards the rear of the field. Looks like the front half of the field all good to go.
Rodney Sullins involved.
Yep, along with Pat McCarskey, Andre Charest with some rear end damage. Another driver further up involved, either Dennis McCarthy, Billy Ellis, or I'm not sure which one. Oh, nope, it was Jeff Crivello in the 36 who's through the infield grass on the front straightaway.
Yeah. Yep, I think I see where this started, sir. Looks like it started in turn 3.
Yeah, I
Right
see
around the
right there.
97, yep.
Yep. Oh, wow. Makarski actually up and over after a hit from Billy Elliser.
It looks like he just lost it going on the entry into turn 3. Just simply came out from under him. When he came back up the track, it got ugly.
And this is the byproduct, too. I mentioned about the fact that Jeff Supta was alongside of Makarski right there. Wow, that is a massive hit for Billy Elliser. Up and over a couple of times, squeezed up into that outside safer barrier and the catch fence, but Supta was back around that. Sullins was caught up in that, and you can kind of trace that back to the issues they had on pit road during the green flag pit stops, putting them back in this dangerous situation.
Heavy contact to the 38 of Rodney Sullins, the front end.
Here's a
He
look
got
from
looks like he got a couple others coming in there afterwards.
Here's a look at the impact for Billy Ellis. There's Sullins just ahead of him. There's Denny Carroll, who was the leader when the green flag pit stop cycle began. He was back behind this. Jeff Crivello going to make his way on by. Looks like Dennis McCarthy also is able to get through unscathed. I mean, amazingly, for how squashed into the wall that 26 was, he doesn't look all that badly damaged. I'm sure there's some mechanical problems internally going on with that Cheerios Ford Mustang, but it doesn't look nearly as banged up as I thought it might.
It doesn't. Actually, Rodney's car looked a little uglier than that, but we did see that Nick Gunther with that Mazda last week take it into the victory lane with front end and back end
That's
damage
true.
with things set on moderate. So if you can stay in the draft here, you can still hang in.
Oh, Jeff Crivello looks like is going to be the only driver out of the race, as he was, to my knowledge, not collected up in the incident, but we did see him down in the infield grass, so he'll join Dante Ricci in the garage area. This caution will help Dave Robbins get one of his 2 laps back, so he will be at -1 of the remaining 35 drivers, with 34 of them on the lead lap. And this caution I don't know, it just kind of ups the ante a little bit in terms of the aggression here, because we had 10 laps to go before the stage completion, and now we're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 5, maybe less than 5 to go.
Would you want it any other way? It's going to get interesting. Looks like Jeff Crivello had contact post incident there with Rodney Sullins, and that may have given him some front end damage, motor damage as well.
So another opportunity for more drivers towards the back of the pack to maybe come down pit road, top off the fuel tank, which can make things very interesting if we end up going into another long green flag run. I don't believe that anybody yet would be able to make it the rest of the way on one more pit stop. Right now, if you pitted, you'd be able to go to about, lap 59? Well, I don't know. It'd be close. You probably could make it on one pit stop from here if you're one of the drivers that pit under this caution.
With the help for caution. Now, Jeff Supta is still holding in 20th place there after the restart in the second caution. I don't know if, with the number of laps we'll have left, if it's worth him trying to make a charge 10 spots, or does he want to think about going in and topping off here? Tough call right there.
I think to your point, I think he's actually made the dive onto pit road. So taking on that extra bit of fuel, maybe trying to make a play for the race win rather than those valuable stage points. Supta, of course, a victor already this season. 4th in the point stands, 19 points out. Should get the 1 to green this time, I do believe, which will leave us with 5 laps left here in the stage. Which, again, to remind everybody, we're working our second caution. When we complete lap 40, if we are green, we remain green. We run through the halfway point. The points are awarded to the top 10, but we do not have a stage caution come out. So we got some drivers planning for those valuable stage points. On the flip side, we got drivers towards the second half of the field that are planning for potentially that final pit stop in the second half of this race.
Checking in on our bubble drivers in the standings, showing Bob LaChance in 12th position in the standings. He's currently running 10th as we're coming up on halfway. And first person on the outside looking in, Colin Flick, is running 14th. So some movement to be gained there as well.
Guarantee you that a lot of those drivers just above, just below that 12th in the standings cut line stage points was at the forefront of their mind coming into this one. To your point, a couple of them just above, just below, with a chance here of finishing up inside of the top 10 at the conclusion of lap 40, as lights are indeed out on the Toyota Camry pace car. We'll get ready to go back green. We can add another driver to the DNF list. Pat McCarskey, after his wild ride, has retired out of the race. He'll get credited for 35th. You saw Dave Robbins go around, get one of his 2 laps back, another caution, and he would be back on the lead lap. As Grant Wesley, Ron Hagelin going to be the top 2, and just double checking here, I believe Jeremy Jeffries pit under this caution, because he was up here inside of the top 5. I believe he was 3rd or 4th when the caution came out. He's restarting back in the 17th spot. We've seen Jeremy a couple of races this season lose out on stage points, but looks like he willingly came to pit road this time and is going to try and get those stage points the hard way.
Yeah, interesting to see what he has to say about making that move, but looks like we'll have exactly 5 laps to go as the green flag is out.
Another solid launch there by Grant Wesley. He'll leave them stacked up side by side for second as they make their way through 1 and 2. Usse will slot into that second spot. And now Greg Palmer to the inside of Ron Hagelin for third.
Nick Gunther making to inside behind Greg Palmer. Brian Schilling there behind Nick Gunther, and Josh Metallic right in there alongside Brian, heading into turn 3. And there's somebody spinning. Looks like Mark Paglia. A big wreck in the back. Rodney Sullivan's involved again. The caution is out.
Yellow flag waves for the 3rd time here tonight. Cy Jones going to go up and over after a little extra contact there from Dennis McCarthy. Bob Dixon, Andre Charest caught up in this one as well.
I think this might be the same thing we talked about before. Cold tires on a restart going into turn 3.
One of the biggest things, too, as we'll go back and take a look at the replay that I can recall from previous races at Michigan, not particularly this version, but other Michigans as well, is not only do you have the cold tires on a restart, but with the big field we've got here tonight as well, there's going to be a lot of side-by-side racing. There's going to be a lot of checking up. And when you lift out of the throttle to give room to the driver up ahead of you, the back end wants to unload. And usually there's no chance of being able to gather it back up. That could be something else that these drivers are dealing with on these restarts.
It sure looks like it there. If you're going into the turn, especially on cold tires, and you want to check up where you don't feel like you normally check up, it gets very hard to catch it there. I think you're going to see some amazing decision making by Jeff Soup that he squared it by on the apron there.
Rodney
Rodney get involved again.
Yeah.
Boy.
It's been a tough 10 to 15 laps to the 38 car.
He's got to be feeling like a piñata at this point.
Saw Paglia was the car that got out of shape, swept up Bob Dixon. And the 143, Andre Charest, and the 75.
Yeah, pretty much as we just described it right there. Boy, 75 has been in a few of them tonight. He looks like he already had back end damage.
I've seen a couple of drivers here already, have that problem with the car getting loose. Is there anything as a driver that you can do outside of trying to hit the brakes, hope that the nose gets pointed back in the right direction? Because it's a tough situation, right? You get on the brakes, you're going to have the drivers behind you running into the back of you, but you stay in the throttle, and those rear tires are going to continue to spin, that back end continue to come around.
Yeah, you don't want to lock him up and then get punted by the guy behind you and collect him with you, but you want to do some depending on the situation, some combination of lifting out, pushing the clutch in, and dragging the brake, not abruptly to try to right it straight. David Day used to be an ace at doing that. He'd be totally sideways in the turns, and somehow he'd grab just enough brake and snap it straight.
Well, this is the caution that Dave Robbins needed. He'll be back on the lead lap. Looks like Cy Jones lost a lap making repairs on pit road, and Andre Charest, who was in the middle of that wreck, has taken his Ford Mustang to the garage area. So 4 drivers will be out of the race at this point in time. Let's see if we get the lights out on the pace car this time by, because if we do, then we'd have a 1-lap shootout to decide the stage victory. And no, it does not look like the lights are going to go out. So effectively, if they go out the next time by, we're going to pretty much be coming to the start-finish line to not only take the green, but to award the top 10 the stage points.
Yeah. Yeah, because of the lap down cars, Lucky Dogs have not been able to shorten the cautions tonight, I'm hearing. So looks like we will lock in our top 10 stage points next time by.
So Grant Wesley will get himself 10 valuable points as the stage winner. Ron Lucet gonna net 9. Ron Hagelin will get 8 with Greg Palmer at 7. Nick Gunther 6. Greg Lovell in his first start of the season, he'll get a total of 5 stage points. Josh Metallic, 4 for him. 3 for Brian Schilling, 2 for Bob LaChance, and John Godfrey gonna net himself a stage point here as he is going to be 10th on this upcoming restart. We talk about tonight, and I think we're going to be seeing second half of this race, we're going to see strategy coming into play, especially with these cautions right in the middle of this event. But another track where strategy is maybe at its most prevalent is the track we're going to next week at Pocono. They call it the tricky triangle, but it's tricky in many ways. The racing surface itself is tricky, but it's also tricky in trying to figure out what strategy the other drivers around you are going to try to play, because we talk about tires, 3 entirely different corners, but fuel strategy usually seems to be something whenever we end up going to the Pocono Mountains.
You can almost run Pocono like a road course, and regardless of the cautions, pit when you feel like you're in your fuel window. We're curious if we'll see anybody try that strategy next week. But yeah, Pocono presents some unique challenges. It's big, it's long, it's wide, but track position matters there.
One of those few tracks as well, depending on where you are in the field, where you can come down pit road and return to the track without losing a lap. So we'll be interested to see what type of strategies will be coming into play in that one. Looks like we're going to have yet another lap here as well as the lap down cars, the Lucky Dog machines, going around and getting their laps back. So it looks like we will actually end this stage under caution and get back green in the second half of this race. But you look at a couple of the drivers and how these stage points are really going to help them. Ronald Lucet going to finish second in the stage, 7th in points. I believe if my quick math is correct, he was only 18 points ahead of the 12th in the standings cut line. Ron Hagelin, 9th in the standings. He was only 7 points ahead of the cut line. So that's 2 drivers that are going to net some very valuable stage points here. Try and build a little bit of a cushion here down the home stretch of this regular season to lock themselves up a spot in the playoffs.
Even John Godfrey in 14th, he's got himself an extra stage point, and that'll help boost him forward. Notable names that are missing from here that are in our top 10 in points: Jeremy Jeffries and Jeff Supta.
Great point there. I would have to go back and look, but that's just, at least to my knowledge, the 3rd race of the 5 we've run that Jeremy Jeffries has missed out on stage points. Supta, I believe this would either be his 1st or 2nd that he has missed out on stage points here this season. And I feel like every race, I mean, you drove it home, season opener, first thing you talked about was the importance of those stage points. I mean, they helped decide a championship last season here in the Barebones Racing Series, and you gotta wonder if we eventually get towards the end of this season, if we look back at some of these races, that some of these guys, yep, they were able to go to victory lane, but they weren't able to net those valuable stage points when they needed them, and could be a difference maker into who's hoisting that championship trophy at the end of season.
It certainly can. Like I said, every single one of them counts. And we do reset the points when we get to the playoffs, but then they count all over again. Looking now, we should see, well, going to be halfway here, so see if they get themselves sorted out. But again, with these extra caution laps, cold tires, we're going to have to see if we can get them going green for a couple of laps.
Your top 10, it looks like, have only been to pit road once. Everybody on back have been to pit road at least twice. A couple of drivers further on down through the field have been to pit road 5, 7, and 10 different times. So taking the opportunity here to really top off that fuel tank under these caution periods. As Grant Wesley currently has led the most laps, 17 circuits out in front. He'll lead his 18th lap here to get us back under green. Second half of this race ready to be run. At least one more pit stop for everybody, but a little bit spread out in terms of when that pit stop would have to be made all the way through the field. As here we go. Wesley back up through the gears. Ooh, trouble for somebody back there. Looks like that was Colin Flick. I don't know if he lost a gear or something.
He dropped right to the apron, and it looks like everybody's getting by him cleanly, and he's getting up to speed. He's going to merge in at the tail end of the field, so he decided to drop to the rear for some reason.
Hagelin going to try to clear up for second. He will do so right in front of Ryan Lucet. Lucet clear for third.
Turn 3.
Yeah, can they get through here? Is the big question.
So close on entry there.
If they could just get 1 or 2 laps, get those tires up to temperature, we should be good.
We're through 1 lap, sir.
That battle will be for second place. The Spider-Man Chevrolet looks to the inside of Ron Hagelin's Coca-Cola Camaro as Grant Wesley right down there on the yellow line, and much like a super speedway, Grant's kind of looking in the rearview mirror, seeing where that run's coming from on the back straightaway, trying to see if he can keep them stacked up side by side for second.
That's exactly it. On the backstretch, the numbers on the outside, but as he goes to the bottom, the numbers are now suddenly on the inside.
Greg Palmer now going to move into the 3rd spot. Greg coming off a victory in the Talladega Challenge Series last Thursday night, locking himself into the playoffs in that series. Ooh, a little bit of a stack up here from second on back. Lucet almost into the back of Palmer. Gunther almost into the back of Lucet. Had to dive to the inside there. Is now Hagelin a little loose up off of turn 2. Opens up the door for second place.
Can't talk enough about how the guys race in this series. They really do race hard, but they try to use their heads and take care of each other, and they're able to pull it off more times than not. Josh Metallic is on the move. He's a name to watch anytime we go to Michigan. He's going to go for a twofer. He takes care of Ronald Lucier. He's still got the momentum. He's going to carry him right alongside the 111 of Ron Hagelin, and he's right on the back bumper of Greg Palmer. Is he going to look to the inside and take it into turn 1? Looks like he may, and he lifts out of it.
Going to slot into 3rd position nonetheless, though, behind Grant and Greg. And we'll have to see here because Metallic was one of those drivers we kind of saw fade back just before we had that cycle of green flag pit stops. Might have used up that right front a little bit. As you mentioned, aggressively working his way forward, but will he have the long run speed here on this run that he was lacking on the first run?
Curious to see because we're starting to get spread out here. It looks like we get a green flag feel to it again. See how Mr. Jeff Supta starts to come up the field. I see he's looking on the inside. Looks like of Kelly Causey a little further back in the field, starting to make his march to the front. Ryan Schilling up there on the outside. Yep, there's Jeff Supta right behind Kelly Causey. He's currently shown in the 17th position. Dave Nelson making a move to the inside of him, picked up momentum.
Denny Carroll, who's been out in front here tonight, currently just outside of the top 10 as stack them up double wide, 7th back through the 10th position. Gunther and Jeffries, a couple of former winners side by side for that 7th spot. Schilling and Bob LaChance for 9th place. And now Metallic looking for more, shows the nose at least, going into turn 1. Palmer not only going to block that, but goes to the inside of Wesley himself for the top position. Can he clear up off of 2? Barely.
As Josh Metallic tries to get on the inside, looks like they might line back up, give up the momentum there, but that was a close move.
Something that will be interesting to kind of keep track of, as I mentioned, 10 drivers when we went back green had only been to pit road once, and that was back during our cycle green flag pit stops. They stayed out to get those valuable stage points. Jeremy Jeffries right now would be the highest running driver that has been to pit road at least a second time. He's currently scored in the 8th position. And then I believe it would be Frank Rivard and Randy Waugh, who are in 10th and 11th. They've been to pit road 3 times. So if you're looking at where the difference is going to be as to who can run a little bit longer than some of the others on fuel, the 1, the 35, and the 21 would be those drivers. Most of these drivers you see up here at the front, they're going to have to be on pit road probably about 8 to 10 laps sooner than a bunch of the other drivers that came down and topped off under our previous 3 cautions.
I'll tell you, if this stays green, that would be quite interesting to see how that plays out. Because even if you're further back in the fields, we see Jeff starting to slowly make his climb. You're not out of this. You can stay in this draft. You can make passes. You can pick them off one at a time. And as we saw Josh Vitalik do before, you can pick them off 2 at a time.
There you see the power of the draft down the back straightaway. Palmer and Lovell, nose to tail, able to get around Ron Lucet, loses him a couple of spots. Kind of reminds me when they're able to all line up against the wall there and get that run on the outside line down the backstretch. Kind of reminds me of Indianapolis, where you can make that move to the inside going into the corner, but you better have that pass completed when you exit the corner, else you're going to be in trouble.
As we're about to see, Josh Vitalik going for the lead here again. Will Greg Palmer line up behind him? He will. He'll need the draft help to get by.
Top 2 in the point standings, both looking for their first win on the season. Metallic, with the aid of the 22, will go out in front. As you mentioned, a former winner here at Michigan and trying to find his way back to victory lane. Coming around to 30 laps to go. And I tried to keep track of when most of these drivers last made their pit stop. I know at least for the drivers that were the top 10 when they took the completion of the stage, those drivers were last on pit road between laps 23 to 25, so they're probably only about 5 laps away from pitting. They might have been able to save a little bit under these caution periods, but there's no way they're going to make it any further than lap 55, 56, I would think.
And guys who topped off there when we were coming to the halfway, namely Jeremy Jeffries, I just saw him enter the picture there. Looks like he's up into the 5th or 6th position.
Jeremy with 2 victories on the season, back-to-back at, 2 out of the first 3 races of the season at Kansas and Coca-Cola Superspeedway, looking for a series-leading 3rd win on the season. As ahead of him, Greg Lovell looks to the inside of Greg Palmer. And look at Jeremy, trying to line up there behind Grant. I thought for a moment he thought about maybe taking it 3 wide.
Oh, I definitely think he thought about going 3 wide because, again, momentum, and you feel like you can do it, but he thought, not the time yet. So he tucked back in behind Grant. But he's still going to pick up that position, and Greg Palmer is going to be sliding backwards and tries to fit in front of Ronald Lucier, but Ronald says not right now.
33 drivers running, all 33 on the lead lap. Greg Lovell going to become a different leader of this race, as he will go out in front of Grant Wesley. Here comes Jeremy Jeffries moving into 3rd place, and we talked about the fact that he's a little bit better on fuel than everybody else around him, so the speed in that race car positioned himself rather well for when eventually a lot of this draft is going to have to dive onto pit road. The question is, when is that going to be? Waiting to see for radios to light up here. They've gone about 3, now make it 4 laps past what we projected. But again, remember, they ran a number of laps under pacing with those cautions, so they've been able to save a little bit here. There's no way they're going to eclipse lap 60, but we might be about 2-3 laps away from we're going to see a lot of these drivers dive onto pit road. And this basically now, Sean, we talked about the money stop in terms of the stage. This is the money stop for everybody for the race win.
It sure is, but they want to get one more lap in because they want to be able to make it to the end. So that's the thing, the game here. I mean, I'm not going to risk running it out, but I'm going to run it down to 3 pounds of fuel pressure before it starts buggling to get one more lap in. I don't want the caution to come out, and I want to get inside that fuel window, which at the completion of this lap, I think they're nicely in there.
You talk about momentum at this racetrack. To your point, you want to make sure that there's at least enough fumes to get you around to your pit stall if indeed you are running the risk of stretching it this extra lap here. Jeremy Jeffries going to look to the inside of Greg Lovell. I believe Greg is wanting to pit this lap potentially, and that could have boxed him out of pit road. No, looks like he's actually going to stay out an extra lap. We'll see if anybody's coming to pit road this time, or are they able to go 1 lap further. Looks like Ron Hagelin was on pit road.
He was the first one on. Yep, Ron Hagelin in 111 was the first one on. Nobody else yet.
Remember the cold tires here for these drivers that are going to be making these pit stops.
Grant Wesley's got his hand out the window. Looks like he's going to come in this time by. I expect to see more.
Expect to see Grant, Greg Lovell, Greg Palmer, Josh Metallic, Ron Lucey, Brian Schilling. These are all drivers that have only made one pit stop here so far tonight. As here comes Lovell onto pit road.
88 and 880. Grant with the hot pit gets his quote up nicely.
That was quite the hot pit for Grant Wesley.
I think he'll be okay, but you didn't want to pit alone here, so at least they have each other to get back, hook up together.
Yeah, the only two coming down pit road here of the drivers that we still are awaiting to make a pit stop. Josh Metallic, I believe, would be the front running of the drivers next to see the pit road, along with the 22 and the 4 behind him. Caution is out.
Yep, I see smoke on the backstretch. Just going to say Bob LaChance was signaling the pit road. Looks like the 56 may be involved.
Yellow flag and a wave for the 4th time here tonight, right in the middle of the start of the final round of pit stops here. Looks like Grant and Greg are going to get out ahead of the leader, so they'll actually stay on the lead lap.
This could work out well for them if everybody else pits.
Really could.
Yep, you're going to want to look at the exit of turn 2. $35, $56, and $11.
Frank Rivard, one of the drivers coming into this race in a pivotal position in points, 11th in the standings. He was only 3 points ahead of Bob LaChance, as it looks like the 35 might have tried to clear up. They were 3 wide with Supta to the outside of Jeffrey Elliott.
Yeah, it's exactly what it looked like. With moderate damage, I don't know if the hits here were too severe.
Didn't look like it, at least from that initial shot. The 11 is squeezed up against the wall, but it doesn't look like he would have gotten that much damage out of it.
I see a lot of heads-up racing behind that, and to avoid secondary contact, looks like Rodney Sullins made it through one.
He did.
So look at that.
Whew. Kelly Causey, as the 35 redirects back up the track there. Close moment for him. I believe everybody avoided the 56 of Jeffrey Elliott, who spun down towards the inside of the racetrack as well. So 3-car incident in the middle of the field. Actually would have been inside of the top 10 right there, latter half of the top 10, after we had those leaders hit pit road.
Looks like the Jeffrey Elliott has taken his car to the garage. He has retired and now showing the 111 Ron Hagelin, who was, I believe, the first car we saw hit pit road when the window opened. He's being shown a lap down, so perhaps he'd be the lucky dog.
Should, to your point, indeed get the free pass. Frank Rivard in the 35. Looks like he'll be pitting the second time by. Of course, those that aren't aware, the penalty system, basically, if it's an incident that you caused, you pit the second time around. So that's what Frank will do to be able to get the EOL. And look at this. Couldn't have a more perfectly timed caution if you're Grant Wesley or Greg Lovell. You just had completed your service. You came off of pit road ahead of the leaders when they took the caution and cycled behind the pace car. Everybody had to come to pit road, so they cycle right back up to the front.
Love it when a plan comes together, is what they're saying, as if they could tell that was going to happen. But it did work out in their favor. You know, the pacing laps, they'll have a little bit of a colder tires, but I think they'll be okay.
I said it earlier on tonight. A lot of times you can plan a strategy. A lot of other times the strategy just falls into your lap, and that's what it did here for Grant and Greg. Jeremy Jeffries is going to line up behind them in third. He was the first on, first off of pit road here under this caution period, with Greg Palmer and Brian Schilling the top 5. Josh Metallic, Andre Marjan, makes his first appearance inside the top 10 in 7th, with Randy Waugh, Ron Lucey, and Denny Carroll the top 10. Now,
everybody's got enough fuel.
And with the timing of that caution, too, there's no tire deficit between the top 2 and the drivers behind them, because they had just come off pit road, so no green flag laps on their tires. It's level playing field all the way back through.
20 laps of hardcore racing. No tire strategy, No fuel strategy. Just manage the tire temps and keep the yellow flag away. We'll see what we get.
Grant Wesley second in points, 7 points behind Josh Metallic, who's going to restart in 6th, so the points still going to be close between those two. Jeremy Jeffries, who's 15 points back, going to restart in 3rd. And Jeff Supta trying to work his way back forward after he was involved in that last incident, going to restart in 14th. He was 19 points out of the top position. As we'll wait for that pace car to make the left-hand turn to pit road, hopefully for the final time here tonight. These drivers now, they've got what they've got.
Good night to make your series debut. Greg Lavelle taking the restart in 2nd, and we talked about Ulysses Sandoval being down a lap earlier. He is now taking this restart in 10th place after being the beneficiary of the lucky dog before.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the debut there of Greg Lovell and Ulysses Sandoval, with those two starting as high up as they are, if one of them goes to victory lane, I don't know if there's enough races in the regular season for them to climb up into the top 20 in points, but gotta wonder if we would then see them on following Monday nights in an attempt to get themselves into a postseason position, as Grant Wesley running right down there on the bottom got a little squirrely when those left sides got to that white line, and look at the momentum that Jeremy Jeffries was able to generate down the back straightaway.
Yep, they might have been content to try to take off, but Jeremy saw that little bit of a squirrel, and he got himself right to the inside, and he's making a move.
Grant now up on the top side there, going to get freight trained. Well, maybe not. Greg Lovell pulls his back bumper. Now he'll dip to the bottom. How about 3 wide for the 5th position? Andre Mahjong on the bottom. Palmer on the top. Metallic in the middle.
It is on now. We're saving nothing. We're using it. Oh, we got Andre Marjon come up the track, and he's going to get on the apron and keep it straight, maybe? I saw the spinner behind him. Randy Wall is around.
Oh, and he's going to collect a number of drivers with him.
Caution is out.
Bob Dixon, Dave Melson, Bobby Farrell, I believe, was in it, along with Ulysses Sandoval. That was a great save there by Andre Mahjong.
Sure was.
There's the 21 of Randy Waugh. Might have been a couple of drivers in the same situation, just in different portions of the field, pushing up the track a little bit, lifting out of the throttle to not get into the driver's left rear and maybe getting loose. Well, maybe not quite the same for Randy Waugh. We're first going to look here at the save by Andre Mahjong, because I thought at first that he was going to spin Metallic, and then right here I'm thinking he's going around. That car never fully snapped, and normally at this point you're coming back up into traffic. That is a tremendous job of car control.
Can't say it enough. That is absolutely the save of the race. That is something to be able to keep that going. But my God, the melee that ensued behind that. They probably saw that check up, and everybody got a little light on the gas, and that's unfortunately all it takes on the cold tires.
Bunch of drivers collected up in that one. John Godfrey, Terry Bombard, Glenn Harris involved. We saw Bobby Farrell in it, Ulysses Sandoval. There's Bob Dixon. We'll get another look at it here, focused on the 21. Looks like there was a little bit of contact between Randy Waugh and Ronald Lucet through the center of 1 and 2.
Yeah, it looks like the back end got a little light on Randy, and he kind of got that squirrely.
It's almost kind of like he wanted to take that run up the middle and then maybe second-guessed himself, and just that little burp of the throttle, the back end of the car gets light.
Yep, probably saw at the same point what was going on between the 39 and the 27 in front of him. And looks like Jim Gloud was sideways there. Did he save it too?
Let's find out.
Oh, he got caught up. He got caught up in it. No, he didn't. Wow, Jim Gloud made an incredible move here. Watch this. He goes low, he goes high.
Jeff Supta, Rodney Sullivan's also getting through that one.
See, Rodney's luck is turning.
It is.
I saw it in the chat box there. Don't worry, don't fret, don't leave. He's coming back.
Number of drivers on pit road here. Most of them, I would assume, for damage repair. There could be a couple of drivers closer towards the second half of the field that could come down pit road, take on a set of fresh tires here, see if they can utilize that to work their way forward through the field, as unlimited tires here this season. Use all that you want.
Definitely going through a few sets tonight.
No need for a lucky dog here under this caution. Everybody was on the lead lap. 32 drivers still running. 5 drivers in the garage area with Jeffrey Elliott, Andre Tres, Pat McCarskey, Jeff Cravello, and Dante Ricky. Could see the lights out on the pace car this time by as we are about to enter into the threshold of 15 laps to go here tonight. Jeremy Jeffries, the only former winner on the season, currently up inside of the top 8. You got to go all the way back to 10th position before you find another former winner in Jeff Supta. A lot of potential for some first-time winners on the season here with Wesley, Lovell, Schilling, Metallic, Palmer, Lucet, Andre Mahjong after that great save, still in the 8th position. Jim Gloud, who we saw have that great move through the wreck, now in the 9th spot. So, like we say, a lot of times, closing stage of this race, it can come down to positioning. And a lot of these drivers up here inside of the top 10, right place, right time. Something goes wrong in a battle for the lead, a battle for the race win. You might be able to make your way through the smoke and be the first one back to that start-finish line.
Well, we hope they don't see the yellow again. We hope they race it out, but it's anybody's guess at this point. They're going to be, we do see the usual suspects taking formation up at the front. I wouldn't count any of those guys out. Jeff Supta, like I said, he's hungry. He's got a little bit of ways to go. He's going to need the flag to stay green.
Jeremy Jeffries has had a strong race car here tonight, but this is the first time that he has been out in front as he has led the last 7 laps. 2-time winner on the season, and I remember when we talked to him after Coca-Cola being a multi-time winner of the season, I asked, does that kind of open it up a little bit in terms of the freedom of you being a little bit more aggressive to try and go for more victories this season? He said, absolutely. He's not exactly been able to cash in on the stage point side, but definitely racking up those race victories and looking to add a 3rd one here this evening. That'd be 3 wins in the first 5 races for driver number 1 if he's able to close out the deal. 15 laps to go here at Michigan. We're back underway.
And those race victories will get you bonus points carrying into the playoffs, and that's what Jeremy's got in mind there as he tries to take off here. But I'd say that Brian Lavelle is at a disadvantage here because the guys I'm seeing surrounding him have known this track and have made this finish many times before, so they know what to expect from each other and from the track.
Grant and Gray going to be side by side for second. Ooh, Jeffries left the door open. Not quite able to get enough of a ride to get the left rear quarter panel there was Greg Lovell, but Jeremy obviously wanted that arc into the corner, but he almost left himself susceptible for the race lead as caution's out. He'll lead us back to the start-finish line. 6th caution of the night.
And they are racing back with care. Looks like, yep, the Mark Paglia saves involved.
Second incident at least tonight that Paglia has been involved in. Ron Hagelin in the 111 might have also been involved.
I was thinking Jeremy was going to start mirror driving there, seeing which line had the more momentum, and he wants to get in front of that one, and that would be the way to go, closing this one out.
It's like Dennis McCarthy's car just starts riding up the hill there. Eventually getting into the driver's side door of Ron Hagelin, bounces off the wall and collects up the Dale Jarrett Quality Care throwback of Mark Paglia.
And there was a whole lot of action spinning off the track to all that extra pavement. It's good that it's down there on the backstretch.
Kind of an odd one there with the 024, right? Because that's almost the sign of a car getting tight with it pushing up the hill rather than a car getting loose.
It looks like that, doesn't it? I'm trying to see that.
See if with the chopper cam, let's see if the 024's nose kind of leads towards the inside line here, does get loose, and maybe he's chasing it up the hill. Doesn't really look like it. It almost just kind of looks like that car just continues to trend upward. I didn't see the back end really stepping out at all.
Just slid its way up the track.
Cy Jones with a little bit of an
Nice save,
adventure there.
Cyber.
Keeps it going. Almost got up into, I believe that would have been Dave Robbins in the 96. But a two-car incident, bringing out here the 6th caution of the night. And we talked about when we had those cautions midway portion of the race. Obviously, we were unfortunately not able to see the stage finish under green, but as we started to near 10 to go, we started to near 5 to go for the restarts, we knew the aggression level was going to pick up. Now, as we end up having these cautions late, we're now starting to tiptoe into 10 laps to go for the race victory. And we've seen some moves here. You mentioned Jeremy Jeffries doing some defensive driving there on that last run, trying to see where the momentum is generating. Going to have to do a lot more of that here on these restarts.
I suspect it will be exactly 10 to go when we take the green, and if we can keep the green flag out, that'll be the key to everything. We should see some good heads-up driving, and we should see a lot of guys trying to make moves.
So quickly looking here, it appears that our highest running of our challenger drivers is Colin Flick, who is in the 12th position. I'll double check on that here, but I believe that is the case.
I do concur.
We saw Colin get the Challenger win back at North Wilkesboro, looking for his 2nd win in the Challenger Series here this season. Kelly Causey with 2, Doug Cady with 1. That was back in the opener at Kansas.
I'm showing Kelly in 17th right now with Billy Ellisor in 18th and Bobby Farrell in 19th. So they would be his next closest challengers to the Challenger.
And we talked about mid-portion of the race, a number of drivers that started deep in the field had been able to work their way up towards the front. Brian Schilling was one of those drivers. He's still up here in 6th position, but looking back through, there's a couple of other drivers that are just outside the top 10 that started deep in the field, one of them being Brian Rawson. That's Fastenal Ford, currently in the 14th position, and he started back in 30th place. So a couple of drivers that we haven't necessarily talked a lot about, and that's maybe a good thing because they've been able to keep their noses clean, able to stay out of trouble with our 6 cautions so far here tonight, and now they're reaping the rewards in that valuable track position that you were talking about.
Sure. I'm curious to see how this is going to go on the restart. I imagine that Jeremy and Grant are going to dig on the bottom line, take that low circumference around turns 1 and 2, and if Ronald can stay with them, I'm looking at the high line and wondering, are they going to try to make a move if these guys pull out ahead, or Josh and perhaps Brian Schilling going to look to get downside, and they're off.
I noticed that Metallic laid back a little bit there, may have tried to time the restart to get up there, give a push to Greg Lovell before they got into turn 1. Jeremy's going to clear for the top spot. Grant looks to clear for 2nd. And they will do so. Move into 1st and 2nd. Now leave Greg and Ronald side by side for 3rd. Look at this. The 1 and the 88 going to stay down to the bottom of the racetrack.
Yep, they see that's their best advantage right now is to go there and try to keep those guys in the high line locked out. And Jeremy gets a great run through 3 and 4, so they're going to go right down the front stretch too. The question is now they go up high and they're going to pick up the 880.
The only thing that surprised me about that move running low into 3 is you wouldn't have that arc into the corner. You'd be going rather shallow into the turn, but I guess with the tires cooled down enough here under these caution periods, you felt the grip was there, and there's no grip for Grant as he goes around for the 2nd position, and this is going to be a massive one. Greg Lovell is flipping. Ron Lucet was involved.
You could just see the back end starting to come out as he got down near that white line on the 88, and around she went, and not much you could do. There's no saving it once she went around like that. They are racing back here if they can make it through. I see a lot of cars involved.
Greg Lovell. Oh wow, we got a couple of cars that actually flipped over the wall. They're in the infield. Frank Rivard and Greg Lovell.
I see that. Wow.
Looks like there's a break in the wall there that Greg was able to find. He's gotten back out onto the back straightaway apron. Frank Rivard looks like actually a couple of drivers. Oh, I believe that both Greg and Frank, they had to drive backwards to get to that opening, and they've just gotten disqualified.
Oh, that's tragic. They probably
Wow.
could have called a tow truck, but oh, they got caught between the safer barrier and the infield catch fence.
I mean, I saw the 880 flip over after the contact with Grant. I did not see the follow-up that sent him and Frank into the infield. We will definitely be documenting that, but here's a look at it again. Such a helpless feeling, but we've seen so many drivers. They get the left side down on that apron. It's just on from there, and this was up at the front on the corner exit. There was no way we were going to get away with just a few cars caught up in this one.
Just a few. It just, and I called it a white line, but in the turn there, it is a yellow line. You could just see it happening. And yeah, this thing between the 35 and 880 is looking pretty unnatural. But I noticed Rodney must have painted the 880 because even when they're upside down, you've got sponsor logos.
Yes, indeed. You'll see it right there. There's the Texaco sponsorship on the underneath of the splitter of the 880. And right
And right,
there. Wow.
it's like, I'm going over the wall. I'm taking you with me.
You know, Monday Night Raws tonight, and it may have transferred over to here. That looked like a suplex up over the wall.
That's some kind of move. I'm not sure how automotive it was.
Let's get another shot of that here. You'll see the 88 loop around. Ronald Lucet. Brian Schilling got clipped in that. Andre Mahjong. Dennis McCarthy, big hit further back there.
So if you were a wrestling announcer, how would you call that one?
I probably would pull a Jim Ross. I'd be his guy's my witness. He is broken in half.
It's out of my ballpark right now, but I can imagine that's what it sounded like.
That looked like a snap suplex, if I were to call that move.
And we saw the DQ happen right there live, or in replay mode. So looks like we're going to get the restart right around 5 to go, probably 6 to go.
Andre Mahjong also retired out of the race after that one. Along
Jim
with
Cloud finds himself in second place on this final restart. And today is his birthday, if anyone didn't know that.
How about that? Hey, a race win on your birthday? Can't think of anything better. And look how this changed the landscape. We mentioned that was up at the front. We got Jeremy in the lead, but you mentioned Jim Cloud in second. Jeff Supta's now up to third. Gunther in fourth. Those two drivers struggled after we crossed the halfway threshold here. Rodney Sullins is up in fifth.
Rodney, who every wreck found his car tonight, is now in fifth place coming to the final restart. And do not, and I mean do not, count out Josh Metallic in sixth. And Brian Schilling was right there with him, and I do not see Brian in that shot. It looked like he was down on the apron in that last incident. Let's see where he got through.
Yeah, he got clipped in the right rear in that incident off of turn 2, so he is going to restart back in 21st.
Wow.
Grant's going to start shotgun of the driver still running, 29th. Now for Grant, it's kind of damage control, right? Just manage what you can, pick up as many spots as possible. It's effectively taken him out of the running for this victory with only 6 laps to go. Now you're just trying to stop the bleeding, I guess, and make it at least a manageable points gap going into Pocono next week, as a number of the drivers you're chasing or around you in the point standings are going to restart here inside of the top 6.
Yep, Grant second in points, Brian Schilling fifth in points. They're just in, make some lemonade out of those lemons right now.
So 6 laps remaining here. Jeremy Jeffries going to lead us back to green. Jim Cloud, Jeff Supta, Nick Gunther, and Ronnie Sullins going to be your top 5 as getting ready to have a 6-lap shootout here in the Irish Hills. Flagman's got that green flag in hand. Hopefully the next flag he waves will be the white, as here we go. We're already 3 wide further back there as Brian Rawson didn't get going.
Looks like Kelly Causey's got Colin Flick in his sights for the Challenger Championship right around 10th and 12th. 9th and 11th, and Jeremy gets going, and Jeff Supta is going to clear Jim Cloud into second place, and here comes Rodney on the inside.
All 3 of our former winners on the season up here inside of the top 5 as Cloud going to look low on Supta. Oh, Cloud's going to get loose up into Gunther. Gunther is going to save it. Cloud is as well. I believe we're still green. No, the caution is out.
Caution is out, but there were some big saves there. It looks like Randy Waugh may be involved around again.
Yeah, that might have been what brought the yellow out. I'm not sure that the contact there between the 72 and the 055 would have brought the yellow out, as they both were able to save it with the assistance of the wall. So I would assume it's the 21 spin there off of turn 2 that would have brought out this 8th caution.
Yeah, he may have blown a motor. So it looks like he had trouble on the restart. Did not get going. He got up through the gears and then just started dropping back, and then eventually off onto the apron.
Let's see if we can...
Yeah, he retired. He pulled off and retired on the restart. Could have lost 4th gear, perhaps. Just speculating.
Watch him here as he's currently in 3rd gear.
Ron Lucier brought the Spider-Man modified out to finish this race tonight.
And you hit it right on the head right there. Shift up to 4th gear, nothing.
Yep, and he took it to there, and I don't know if that combination of that and the the action going up top had the sim guy push the button in the booth.
There's the
that
contact
looked like a big wreck.
Cloud and Gunther, and I don't believe anybody else gets collected up in this.
Billy Ellisor too made a really great save. Oh, I see some smoke there. Cyber Jones and Grant going around.
That would have been drivers trying to dive low to avoid the incident. I was trying to see, as we saw Cloud and Gunther trying to gather it back up, if the caution lights were already on or not. I couldn't tell from the angle we had there through 3 and 4. We'll see as we follow the 7 of side Jones, see how he and Grant got together.
Lights are out before the 21 hit the apron, so this could be it. Lights are on, rather, before the 21 hit the apron. Yep, that's it.
So 8th caution of the night. And setting us up for, well, it'll be a restart with less than 5 to go. We know that much. Could be a 3-lap shootout, could be a green-white checkered, could be a 1-lap shootout. I think right now it looks like it's leaning more towards a green-white checkered. Since we don't have any lap cars, we could potentially have the lights go out this time, which would give us 2 laps to the finish.
Looks like I'm going to guess exactly that.
Looks like the diagnosis for the 21 of Randy Waugh, an engine piston. He'll get credit for 29th. So 28 drivers still remaining, all on the lead lap.
And I stand corrected. That looks like that must have been the cause of the lights coming on, because when the contact happened with Cyber Jones, the lights were already on.
It's going to gear us up for what should be an exciting finish to the night. You talked about that battle for the Challenger win. Take a look at Kelly Causey and Colin Flick going to share row 4 on this upcoming restart. John Godfrey, who's just outside of that 12th position in the standings, currently going to restart in 9th. Had that great run back at Coca-Cola Super Speedway that leapt him up through the points to now have him in the conversation to get up into a playoff spot. And Denny Carroll's had an adventurous night. They're going to restart in 4th position. He was out in front when the first cycle green flag pit stops began, had that trouble on pit road, lost all of that track position, has slowly had to grind his way back up here. Now going to restart inside of the top 5.
It's about to get as exciting as it can get. Will they complete these 2 laps is probably the biggest question.
Now they got to at least get around to the white flag for this race to end coming back to the start-finish line at speed. If the caution does fly on the white flag lap, doesn't matter. We're coming back regardless to the checkers. But if they can't get around to that white flag, if on this 2 miles, if we have the caution fly, race is going to end under yellow, which I think kind of puts a sense of urgency to Supta, Sullins, Carroll, Palmer, in the fact of, do you go with 1 lap to set Jeffries up and then 1 lap to pass him, or do you maybe bank on the fact this race could end under yellow and you got to do it all in this upcoming lap?
I think there's going to be all in this upcoming lap. I think guys like Josh and stuff that have seen the caution keep coming out, they haven't had the chance to make their move. So if it comes out again, they're never going to get their chance. I'm making it right now, and here they go.
Here we go. Jeremy Jeffries, Jeff Supta. Going to be side by side here to 1. Inside line advantage will go to Jeffries. Now he's going to do a lot of mirror driving as he's got him stacked up second place. Sullins on the bottom. Supta on the top. Sullins is going to clear into the second spot as now he'll run right on the back bumper of Jeffries down the back straightaway.
Everybody's diving to the bottom, and Jeremy's going to take a low angle going into turn 3, and Jeff's going to try to carry the outside with Josh Metallic and see if he can build some momentum, and he is. He gets into Jeremy's draft here as they're side by side for second place, about to be possibly 3 wide. Nope, they settle out for 2 wide.
Caution's out. Yellow flag is out. Race is going to end under yellow.
3-time winner, Jeremy Jeffries.
3 wins in the first 5 races this season. 1.5-mile win at Kansas, 3-mile win at Coca-Cola, and now a 2-mile win at Michigan.
He joked with us after his first win this season that he's getting good at winning one race at the beginning of the season, and maybe he'd break the curse, and it looks like he's done that successfully.
I've gotten to the point now where a lot of times drivers will say something, and I take it with a large pinch of salt, because more often than not, the results of the season are completely opposite of what they tell me. Drivers will say, I don't care for this racetrack. I'll talk to him in victory lane the following week. I mean, I don't know. I feel like drivers, a lot of times, they have speculations for themselves, and then the races themselves say, hold on just a second. I got a surprise for you.
Yeah, every time I say that, Josh Metallic says, oh, yeah, every time you say that, you're next year in victory lane. So, yeah, that's about how it goes.
Caution and checkered flag. Getting ready to wave over the hood of the Monster Energy Chevrolet, Jeremy Jeffries. His 3rd win on the season. Supta and Rodney Sullins going to be your podium finishers here tonight, as Michigan will go to Jeffries. And if the trend continues here, Sean, that means that he won't win next week, but he'll win in 2 weeks' time. He's won every other race since race 1.
Well, we'll see. He's fairly competent at Pocono, but I know Pocono favors a couple of other drivers as well, too. Going back and looking at that final incident now, looks like some contact right around 16th place.
Drivers coming by congratulating Jeremy. We'll see if we can go back and find that incident before he gets around to the start-finish line to do his burnouts.
Like Cyber's taking it back to the motorhome for the night there. It looks like the 96 and the 92 came together there.
Ron Hagel in there as well. Mark Paglia. Dennis McCarthy. All trying to make their way back to the start-finish line here to close this one out. The mad scramble for positions, which would be back outside of the top 20. But hey, every position, every point can matter. 22nd pays out more than 23rd. And it could be that one valuable point at the end of the regular season. As Jeremy getting pretty used to this now, as he's going to burn it down. 3rd time this season, this time in the Irish Hills at Michigan.
Should be an exciting post-race coverage. We'll get up here. Rodney Sullins got to the podium after all of his trials and tribulations, and it looks like unofficially in 7th place, Kelly Causey will be your challenger winner again.
By 1 position over Colin Flick, so it was really close there for the challenger win. Kelly going to go 3 in a row in victories here in the Challenger Series so far this season.
Jeremy's going to burn it down right into victory lane. Ulysses Sandoval got himself a top 10 finish in his series debut. And where did Brian Lavelle end up after all of
that? He was one of the DQ drivers.
Right.
Looks like Jeremy going to celebrate right in front of his pit stall here with his crew as well. And we'll take a look as he does that at the full finishing results. We'll be talking with Jeremy down in Victory Lane, as well as Jeff Supta and Ronnie Sullins, our podium finishers. We'll also be dialing up our Challenger winner, Kelly Causey. We were remiss in doing that last week, so apologies for that. Greg Palmer, great run in fourth tonight. Josh Metallic. Wesley struggled tonight. Jeffries got the win, was third. I think Josh will still keep the points lead, but it's going to be close, I think, between him and the one going into Pocono. Denny Carroll, solid night in sixth. As you mentioned, Causey and Flick, nose to tail, they're crossing the line for that Challenger win, 7th and 8th. Sandoval, top 10 in 9th in his debut. And John Godfrey, another top 10 run for him, a drive that was around that bubble spot, going to net the 10th spot. Bob Dixon, Brian Rawson, Dave Melson, Billy Elliser, Brian Schoen, the top 15. Elliser was, wasn't he, like, squeezed into the wall and we thought he was going to have aero damage for the rest of the race? Apparently, he was able to survive for a decent finish. Nick Gunther, Terry Bombard, Ron Hagelin, Jim Glad, Mark Paglia, your top 20. Grant Wesley, that spin from second late hurt his chances of a good run. 21st for him. Robert Lucet, Glenn Harris, Cy Jones, Dennis McCarthy, your top 25. And last drivers to finish on the lead lap were Dave Robbins and Bobby Farrell. See Bob LaChance finishing a lap down. Drivers that did not reach the conclusion tonight included Randy Waugh, Greg Lovell, Andre Mahjong, Frank Rivard, Jeffrey Elliott, Andre Charest, Pat McCarsky, Jeff Cravello, and Dante Ricky. Really, for the drivers down there that finished out of the race, the one that maybe stands out the most in terms of battling for a playoff spot would be Frank Rivard. He came into this race 11th in points, will certainly be finding himself below the cut line going into Pocono next week.
Yep, it's going to be a bit of an unfortunate deal for Frank there, and I am going to predict that Josh Metallic will retain the points lead after this race, and our three-time winner will still not be there.
Josh did capitalize on some stage points here tonight, which, to your point, will more than likely help him retain the points lead going into next week's race. Well, we were going to dial up Kelly Causey, but it looks like he is not here any longer. So, maybe we'll see if we can get him pre-race next week at Pocono, as he's been on a streak of now 3 wins in a row on the Challenger side. So let's now see if we can get a hold of our podium finishers here tonight, and let's dial up a guy that had a very adventurous night, but made the most out of it. Third place performance here tonight for Rodney Sullins.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Rodney, it's Sean and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I sure do, guys. How you doing?
Well, involved in 3 wrecks in the first half of this race, and then scourged your way through the wrecks in the second half of this race, and you bring it home in the 3rd position. Your father was cheering you on here tonight in our YouTube chat for sure. You're able to bring it home with a solid run, but must have not felt like that was going to be possible in the early stages of this one.
No, not at all. I don't know if y'all caught what I did, but I missed pit road entrance on that first pit stop. And luckily the caution come out, probably saved me from going a lap down. But that's why I put myself in that position. So every time those wrecks would happen and I was involved in them, I'd be like, well, you did it to yourself. You did it to yourself. And just hung around. I mean, I was mad. I wanted to leave. I was just so frustrated because I had a good run. I'm pretty decent at this place. So I was really down on myself. And then I just everybody kept spinning in front of me, it seemed like. And then, like you said, yeah, all of a sudden they were still spinning in front of me, but I wasn't getting involved in them. And those late cautions helped because I had tremendous nose damage, which you could probably tell there coming to the checkered. I should have been able to get second place, but I just had no straightaway speed. I was okay in the corners, so in the corners, but straightaway speed was awful. I just had to try to draft, and then every time there was a checkup, that just killed me. But anyway, yeah, I'm pleased to be here.
Well, Rodney, you sell yourself short, and I tell you, you put on a clinic, and we pointed it out on the air, so hopefully you'll see that on the broadcast, on how to pass here, how to work Michigan. So, we caught you catching the front end damage. We did not catch you missing pit road. So but you put on a great show, a great finish for you, and it was well earned.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I do like this track. I've always liked this track since I've started back racing, especially this version. I think it's one of the best versions of Michigan that there is out there. So I really like this place.
11 laps out in front tonight. Second top 5 netted here this evening at Michigan. Well done on sticking it out, bringing it home in the top 5, podium position in third. Rodney, before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Well, obviously, Seth, FRN, Flatout Racing Network, you and Prime. Yes, I can't wait to go back and watch this one. I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you guys. You guys do a great job. Obviously, Rolling Thunder Gaming with Bones and again Prime, who's also an admin on Mondays. And with him and Jeremy. Congrats, Jeremy, on your win, being the admins for the night. All the admins at Rolling Thunder Gaming, my cohorts on Thursdays, Josh and Tim. Thank you again for still putting up with me. My Burnt Screwdrivers Racing teammates. I think there was about 4 or 5 of us, 5 of us in the top 10 tonight. That was pretty good for the finish. Black Rifle Coffee, Habana Brisa, Shinko Custom Diecast. Dad, I know at one time under caution, you said something about you had to get up early, and I told you to go to bed. Well, thanks for sticking around. I appreciate it. Love you. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again, but happy Father's Day already. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it. This has been a pretty neat night.
Rodney Sullen's third place performance here tonight at Michigan. Interesting to see where this situates him in the points in preparation for next week at the Tricky Triangle at Pocono. Congratulations on the great run there, Rodney.
Yeah, thanks again, Seth. Missing a race or two's kind of hurt me in here and Thursday, so I got my work cut out. But thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Rodney Sullen's third place performance here tonight.
User was moved out of your channel.
Well, our top 3 all led 1 lap. I know you were going over earlier the statistics of the lap lead changes. We had 10 different drivers lead here tonight. I don't know for how many times, and 3 drivers led for double digits. This driver brings it home second. He only led 1 lap here tonight, but he's a former winner on the season as well. Let's dial up Jeff Supta.
User was moved to
Hey,
your
Jeff,
channel.
it's Sean and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Gotcha.
Oh, we just talked with Rodney, who had a rather adventurous night. You did yourself, especially when you were kind of mired back there in traffic. At one point, kind of pinned up against the outside wall in the back straightaway, but persevered, fought your way up to the front, had a shot at this victory. What little did you need there on that restart? Did you, first off, need that extra lap since this race ended under caution, or was there something maybe you could have done to clear the 38, make it a mano-a-mano as you guys headed into turn 4?
At that point, I was just happy to be up front. Honestly, I was shooting for a top 10. Then I was up there, and I was shooting for a top 5. And at that point, I didn't care much to have the win. I just needed to get good points and stay up there with the top guys. Now, just staying low. What's the trick? Then that's what I tried to do.
Speaking of points, we followed you pretty much through the night, and around the halfway point, we noticed you were running, I think, in exactly 20th position, and there was a caution again before we got there, and on that second caution, still short of halfway, looked like you chose at that point and said, I'm not going to grab 10 positions in these remaining laps. I'm going to go down and get service and pit. Was that a strategy play by you?
Yeah, definitely. For the long term, the halfway points weren't going to happen, but yeah, at that point, if you're in the back half of the field, my mentality is fresh tires aren't going to hurt you too bad, and I was going to just try to stay out of trouble and take it easy to get to the end of the race.
Looked like you made a great call there, and we noted you making a great collision avoidance on the apron, and one of those larger wrecks happened right near you, and you managed to read it, get down to the apron, and scoot on by. Well, congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, Jeff, a great run for you here tonight. Another driver that kind of had to overcome some adversity after a strong run in the early going. You net it in the second position here tonight. Your second top 5 on the season, and should keep you up there in the top 5 in the point stands in preparation for Pocono next week. So before I let you go, give you the opportunity here for some thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, thanks to RGG and Flatout Racing, and I don't know if she still watch, but my daughter and my son-in-law now watch me on Mondays. Her name's Samantha. She probably talked to you in YouTube chat. She was upset you never responded. So if you ever look for her, my daughter, she's in there.
But
She said, "Go, Dad."
we did have a go dad
Yes,
for sure, all
that's
caps.
awesome.
Jeff, congratulations on the great run here tonight. Great momentum for you heading into next week at Pocono as you look for your second trip to victory lane. Congratulations on a solid outing tonight at Michigan.
All right, see you next week.
User was moved out of your
And
channel.
let's see if we can go down to victory lane. Third time this season that Jeremy Jeffries is a winner in the Barebones Racing Series in season 65.
User was moved to your
Hey, Jeremy,
channel.
it's Sean and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I got you guys. How you doing?
Well, we saw a rather lengthy celebration there. A burnout at the start-finish line, a burnout in victory lane, a burnout right in front of your pit stall there, right in front of your crew. Third victory on the season. And I don't want to take the question away from Sean, but he did kind of document this, that when we talked to you back at Kansas, he said, well, that's probably my only win on the season. 5 races in, it's your third trip to victory lane, and here tonight, a lot of drivers, a lot of front runners had some issues. The midway portion, the second half of this race, down the home stretch there to the checkered flag. This one stayed pretty steady there out in front, and you were able to keep them all at bay.
Oh yeah, no, this is great. I need to doubt myself at the beginning of the season more often. It's been pretty nice so far. But yeah, that was I had to do. Everywhere I could do a burnout, I did one that made sense. Because gosh, that was a long race. It was a fun race, and I just love this track.
I'll tell you, you again, your third win of the season. Now, in the middle of this race, you seem to be allergic to stage points. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but you should go see a doctor for that. You might be able to get a vaccination. But you made a conscious decision before halfway to pit when we didn't expect you to pit. Were you having damage? Did you decide you wanted to top off? Do you know what you were thinking there?
I was playing the long game. I've gave up stage points enough this season. I might as well just keep on doing it. If it's turning into wins, I don't want any.
You're trading them for bonus points for race wins, which will carry you through the playoffs. I believe that's a smart play, sir.
It's a fair trade.
But yeah, that was completely my thinking there. Is I knew I was giving up the stage points, and but I did. I wanted to make sure when I pitted that I was going to make it, and that I didn't have to pit with a big group of people, which obviously the cautions came out and none of it mattered. But
yeah, with those cautions late, obviously you were the control car, you were the leader, you had your lane choice and all that. But you get a restart with about 10 to go. You get a restart with about 5 to go. We then, on our final restart, have it be a green-white checkered. Does the strategy as the leader vary with each restart as to what you need to do? Because we talked about all the different facets of Michigan, the ability to be able to stifle outrun, see where that momentum's coming from, the ability to keep the car planted, as we saw a lot of drivers have issues with the cold tires, especially through the center to the exit of the corner. So was it always, say, a plan A on every one of these late race restarts, or did it vary depending on how many laps we had left?
no, I pretty much was watching that mirror and seeing where the runs were coming, if they were coming, and I was going to make that Monster Energy car as wide as possible.
Well, you definitely did here tonight. You bring it home with your third win on the season in this young regular season. As you said, trading those stage points for victories, and hey, those victories, they pay out those bonus points as well. And, of course, as well, keep you up there in the conversation for this regular season championship. Also, got some good momentum going in next week. I was saying to Sean, I don't know if we bank on the one going to victory lane next week, but definitely put all your money on the number one the following week, because you've won every other week since the first race here. So some interesting trends going on, it seems, for this Chevrolet. But Jeremy, before let's get back to your celebrating, floor is yours for victory lane. Thank you, sponsors and shoutouts.
I didn't even realize it was every other week. So yeah, that's a good stat to have too there. I'd like for it to be every week, but I'll take every other week. Thank you to you guys for the broadcast. Can't wait to watch back. Sorry we had so many dang cautions. You had to fill time in there, but it was overall, I think, a good race. We had a great green flag run the part of the race. Got to lap 25, I think, before we had a caution. So that was awesome. I was hoping we'd go a little further on the green flag runs, but thanks to Sean and to Bones and all the other staff members around here at RTG for keeping things going. Everybody for donating. giving us the money that allows us to keep the league going and to do the broadcast. Thanks to my teammates at XFM and friends, family, everybody watching in YouTube land. Thank you.
That's Jeremy Jeffries. He is now a 3-time winner here in Season 65 for the Barebones Racing Series, and he'll look to carry this momentum into Pocono, the Tricky Triangle, next week. Congratulations. Go enjoy this victory, Jeremy, and best of luck here down the remainder of this regular season.
All right, see you all Thursday.
Yes, indeed. As,
User was
we are
moved
actually
out of your
approaching
channel.
the halfway portion of the regular season in our Thursday nights for RTG in the Talladega Challenge Series. And one thing that kind of stands out here to me, Sean, and Jeremy apologized for the number of cautions they had here tonight. Yes, there were 9 yellows, but let's be fair in this, in the fact that really, if you look at the instance we had here tonight, it wasn't drivers not giving each other room and everything. The main issue was the cold tires, and a lot of times, a lot of the situations that we saw drivers in, it's a split-second thing. There's no reaction time to be able to gather it back up. Now, fortunately, we had a couple of restarts where we were able to get the tires up to temperature, the grip was there, and we were able to have the long green flag runs. But it's not as if anybody did anything egregious to cause wrecks. It was one of those mitigating factors of cold tires that's just so unpredictable.
I agree, and you were spot on with the initial start. The tires are pretty much up to operating temperature, but when we get those restarts, cautions breed cautions, the tires are colder, and checking up into the entry of turns with these big drafts is always problematic, and we just saw it. We saw a little bit of everything tonight. I think we even saw some pro wrestling moves. So
We did.
we had all that, but I am excited for Thursday. Finally going to hopefully get back behind the wheel after a couple of weeks on the road.
There you go. Let's look ahead to Pocono because, coming into tonight, you said more likely fuel more important than tires. Is it same song, second verse next week when we get to the Tricky Triangle, or do we maybe put a little bit more emphasis on those tires since we're going to a track that has 3 unique corners all differently banked?
It's a very technical track for that reason, and I love that place. Everything comes in. Track position is important. Fuel, you do not want to miscalculate fuel at Pocono. You also do not want to speed at Pocono. They will all be very painful to do. I think we're going to see a little bit of everything. This is not the version of Pocono we've been running for many years. This one's one from the Wednesday catalog that we've been adopting because of some track issues with the other versions we have. So very excited, very curious to see that one. Should play into the hand of a few of our drivers. And we got a good slate of racing ahead for the rest of this week, too, if you want to hear that.
Absolutely.
Looks like tomorrow night, the iRacing boys are back at it. They will be at the Charlotte Roval with the free content Legacy DW Dallara Indy cars. And they are fun to drive. Wednesday night, the Aero 88 series is taking us back to Daytona 1970 version. Super Speedway style racing coming to Wednesday this week. Should be exciting. And Thursday, Talladega Challenge. We will be back onto Burt Screwdriver's Raceway this week.
Love the sound of that Wednesday night. You get the Aero 88 cars at the historic Daytona. So a little history both on the venue and the mod there. And of course, we've seen how those Aero 88 cars drive on Thursday nights the past couple of seasons. After we conclude here tonight, 4 races left here in the regular season. What do you think as far as the drivers either around that cut line or just below it? Do we hit the panic button yet? Or with having tracks like Pocono, Atlanta, Rockingham, and Infineon before we put the playoff grid together, do you think there's still some time, still some tracks drivers are looking at saying, I've got a shot here. I've still got this circled on my calendar. I've still got some hope.
There's always time, and it is the summer season. You always have a flux of drivers might be missing races here and there, so you might get a little extra benefit from that, but some technical tracks coming up. So it is time. If you're going to get moving, now is the time to get moving. No real wild cards there. Almost the opposite of wild card with Infineon coming up to set the race for the playoffs.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch as we head down the home stretch now here of the regular season, the push towards the playoffs, if you will. But Jeremy Jeffries, he's got himself locked up a playoff spot easily. His 3rd trip to victory lane here tonight in the first 5 races as he takes the checkered flag this evening at Michigan. Thank you all for tuning to our coverage here tonight. Next time we'll see you will be Wednesday night for the Esports Ovally Grind Cup Series as they have their Children's Hospital themed race at Kentucky, and then we'll be back here Thursday night for the continuation of the regular season for the Talladega Challenge Series. But for myself and Sean Prime, thank you all for joining us here tonight. We'll see you guys next Monday night as we are in the Pocono Mountains at Pocono Raceway to continue on the 65th season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Barebones Racing Series. Until then, you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support